People came to witness Bob Marley's last concert, expecting music, energy, and the joy that only Bob could bring. No one expected him to stop mid-song and walk toward a single crying girl. Everyone thought it was just an emotional fan moment, a fleeting interaction. But the truth behind her tears was something Bob himself never shared with the world. The night was alive with the sounds of thousands of voices chanting his name. The cold air mixed with the scent of sweat, excitement, and anticipation. Bob stepped onto the stage, his smile hiding the exhaustion deep inside him. He had been weaker than ever. Doctors had begged him to rest, but he refused. The stage was the only place his heart still worked the way it used to. He lifted the microphone, and the crowd erupted. Music rolled through the stadium like a wave, Bob singing song after song with the same fire he had for years. But then, during one line, he froze. His eyes narrowed, voice faltering slightly. The band stopped as they noticed the intensity in his gaze. He wasn't looking at the crowd, not really. He was staring at the front row. There she was, a young girl, barely in her teens. She gripped a torn poster and cried silently. She wasn't cheering, she wasn't dancing. She looked as if her world was quietly collapsing. Bob placed the microphone down, and for the first time that night, the stadium went completely silent. The camera zoomed in, capturing the rare moment, but no one could fully understand what was about to happen. Bob stepped off the stage. Security moved aside as if they understood instinctively. The crowd parted slowly, whispers rippling through the air. He walked straight toward the girl. She froze, unable to comprehend the sudden focus of the man she had admired for years. He knelt in front of her and spoke softly. "Why are you crying, little one?" The girl struggled to breathe. She pointed toward a wheelchair behind her, where a thin man rested weakly, his head leaning to the side. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "He is my dad. He has cancer. He wanted to hear you one last time before he can't anymore." Bob stared at the man, and a crack formed in his expression. Phones lifted to capture the moment, yet nothing could record the weight of the scene. Bob signaled security to bring the wheelchair closer. The father looked up, giving a faint smile that barely held against the sickness consuming him. "Music kept me alive." Bob rested a hand on the man's shoulder and looked back at the girl. "Then tonight, we sing for him." Returning to the stage, Bob picked up his acoustic guitar. The band didn't play. He started Redemption Song, softer than ever before. His voice trembled, not from weakness but from the depth of feeling he could no longer hide. Every word carried the truth he had been keeping from the world. The father closed his eyes, holding his daughter's hand as if holding on to the last fragments of life itself. When the final note faded, the stadium remained silent, honoring the weight of the moment. Bob walked back to the girl and her father. He bent down and whispered something that made her tears stop. "Take care of him with all the love you have." He hugged them both. The crowd erupted with emotion, but Bob walked away quietly, finishing the show with a strange glow, a heaviness, and a deep peace. What no one knew was the truth behind that moment. Bob had already been told his cancer was spreading fast. Pain had become a constant companion. That night, when he saw the girl crying, he saw more than a fan. He saw life mirrored in her fear, her love, her impending goodbye. He did not stop the concert because a fan was crying. He stopped it because he understood her fear, her love, her farewell. Years later, the girl said in an interview, "Bob didn't walk toward me. He walked toward his own truth through me." Some legends change music. Few change hearts in a single moment that the world never forgets. Asterisk. The stadium lights faded behind them as Bob led the girl and her father to his waiting car. The streets were quiet, almost reverent, as if the city itself recognized the gravity of the night. Sasha, the girl, sat beside her father in the back seat, clutching his hand, while Bob took the seat across from them. Daniel, her father, was pale and fragile, his breathing shallow, but his eyes held a spark of life that Bob recognized immediately, the same spark he had seen in thousands of fans over the years. The car moved slowly through the streets, and the only sound was Bob tuning his guitar softly on his lap. Sasha peeked at him through the corner of her eyes, curiosity mixed with disbelief. She had never expected to be in a car with Bob Marley, much less after such an intimate and intense encounter. "Are you okay?" Bob asked Daniel gently. Daniel nodded weakly. "I've never been better," he whispered, though it was clear he was exhausted. Bob's eyes softened. "Music does that sometimes. It keeps us alive, even when our bodies are failing." Sasha looked up at him. "It kept him alive tonight." Bob smiled faintly, looking down at his hands. "Sometimes it's not just the music. Sometimes it's the moments we share, the love we give and receive. That's what matters." For a while, silence filled the car. Each of them was lost in their own thoughts. Sasha's mind replayed the scene from the concert, the way Bob had walked directly to her, the gentleness in his eyes. Her father, feeling weak but comforted by Bob's presence, rested against the seat, listening to Bob's quiet humming. Bob broke the silence. "How long have you two been fighting this?" Daniel looked at his daughter, then back at Bob. "Months. Years, really. Cancer doesn't give warnings. It just arrives." Bob nodded. "I understand more than you know." Sasha turned sharply to him. You're sick too, aren't you?" Bob's hands tightened on the guitar. He didn't answer immediately, just stared out the window, letting the question hang in the air. The city passed by in blurs of light, shadows stretching across the seats. Finally, he spoke. "Yes, I've known for a while. My time is not long." Daniel's hand tightened on Sasha's, his breath catching. Sasha's face went pale, tears brimming again, but Bob's calm presence steadied her. "I wanted to make tonight special," Bob said quietly, "to give you both a memory. Something to hold on to when the world feels too heavy." Sasha swallowed hard. You gave us that. You don't know how much it means." Bob's voice grew softer. "I do. I've known what it feels like to watch someone you love struggle, to feel powerless. That's why I had to stop the song. You weren't just a fan. You were a reflection of my own fears, of my own love, and I couldn't ignore it." Daniel shifted slightly, struggling to speak. You were thinking about yourself?" Bob shook his head. "No, I was thinking about all of us, about what it means to hold someone close, to be present in the moment. We spend so much time rushing through life, we forget to truly see each other. Tonight I saw you. I saw her. I saw hope and fear and love all at once." Sasha's tears fell quietly. "I didn't think anyone would notice." Bob leaned forward slightly. "Some moments are too important to ignore. That's why I came to you." The car continued through the night, quiet but filled with unspoken emotion. Bob hummed softly, the tune of Redemption song barely audible, but it was enough to fill the space with warmth. Sasha rested her head against her father's shoulder, trying to absorb everything. Daniel closed his eyes, tears slipping down his cheeks, the music and Bob's presence wrapping him in comfort. Finally, Bob stopped the car outside their small apartment. He helped Daniel out, steadying him gently. Sasha followed, holding her father's arm. "Thank you," Daniel whispered, voice trembling. Bob nodded. "No need to thank me. Just promise me you'll hold on to each other. Music can fade, but love stays." Sasha hugged him tightly. "I will never forget you." Bob smiled faintly. "Memory lasts longer than the body. Remember that." Inside the apartment, Bob watched them settle Daniel into a chair. He could see the pain, the fragility, but also the love between father and daughter. It was raw, real, and powerful. Bob knew then that moments like this were worth more than any stage, any applause, any fame. He sat quietly with them for hours, sharing stories, singing softly, even laughing gently. Every note, every word, carried a weight of honesty and intimacy the world rarely saw. Sasha and Daniel listened, clinging to the presence of a man whose music had shaped their lives, but whose humanity was even more profound. As the night deepened, Bob stood to leave. Sasha ran to him. "Will we see you again?" Bob shook his head with a faint, bittersweet smile. "Perhaps in music. Perhaps in memory. That is all I can promise." He turned to Daniel. "Keep her safe. Keep her heart strong. That's all that matters." Daniel nodded weakly, grasping Bob's hand. "I will, I promise." Outside, the streets were silent. Bob walked to his car, every step feeling heavier than the last, the pain in his body a constant reminder of his mortality. He looked back once at the apartment, at the small figures of father and daughter framed in the warm light. He knew this night would stay with them forever, just as it would stay with him. On the drive back to his own home, Bob reflected on the night. He had given everything he could on stage, but it wasn't enough. The real gift had been the connection, the human truth he shared with the family who needed it most. And in that, he found something rare, a sense of purpose beyond performance, beyond music, beyond life itself. He reached home exhausted, each step a reminder of the toll the disease was taking. Yet for the first time in weeks, he felt a quiet peace. He had touched hearts, faced fear, and given love where it was needed most. And in that, he found his own solace. The night ended not with applause, but with understanding. Bob Marley had stopped a concert, walked to a crying girl, and in doing so had embraced the fragile, fleeting truth of human life. He had given everything he had left not for fame, not for recognition, but for love. The morning sunlight filtered through the curtains of Sasha and Daniel's apartment. The night had been quiet after Bob left, but its echoes lingered in the minds of both father and daughter. Sasha still clutched the signed guitar pick, her eyes heavy with tears yet sparkling with awe. Daniel rested back in his chair, his frailty obvious but his spirit lifted. Hours later, Bob returned quietly to check on them. He carried nothing but himself and the faint weight of the night's emotions. Sasha ran to the door as he stepped inside, her face lighting up with a mixture of relief and curiosity. "Bob, you came back?" she asked, her voice trembling. Bob smiled softly. "I promised I would. Just wanted to make sure you're both all right." Daniel tried to speak but only managed a weak smile. Bob leaned down and adjusted his blanket, noticing how fragile the man had become. "You have to take care of yourself," Bob said quietly. "I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible. But you have to fight, if only for her." Daniel nodded faintly. "I will, I promise." Bob looked at Sasha. "And you, little one, keep him close. Don't let fear take over. You have more strength than you think." Sasha swallowed hard. "I will. I promise." Bob stayed longer than expected, sitting with them, talking softly, sharing moments, giving them the kind of comfort only a man who understood life and loss could give. He told stories from the road, from concerts, from moments no one would ever hear. Every word carried meaning. Every note hummed was filled with the weight of life. As the afternoon approached, Bob knew it was time to leave. He stood slowly, feeling the weight of his body, the constant reminder of the disease he had carried silently for months. Sasha and Daniel walked him to the door, holding on to him like he was the fragile one, not them. "Why did you really stop the concert?" Sasha asked suddenly, her eyes searching his face. Bob paused, letting the silence stretch. "Because sometimes music isn't about the stage. It's about seeing people, really seeing them." Tonight, I saw you both. I saw your fear. I saw your love. And I realized that one heart can be more important than thousands of voices. Sasha's eyes widened. So, it wasn't just about me? Bob shook his head. No, it was about life itself. And perhaps about mine too. The weight of his words settled in the room. Daniel's hand trembled on Sasha's arm. She understood finally the reason behind every hesitation, every step, every tremor in his voice that night. Bob Marley, the man who gave the world music, was himself walking a final path, carrying the same fear they had, knowing time was slipping away. Bob continued, his voice softer than ever. I've known for a while that I won't have many nights left. The disease, it's moving faster than I expected. I stood on that stage knowing my time is short. But tonight, I wanted to give something that mattered more than applause. Something eternal. Sasha's tears fell freely now. You gave us everything. Bob shook his head. I received more than I gave. In your fear, in your love, I saw the truth I had hidden from the world. I saw life reflected in your courage. I saw humanity. Daniel coughed lightly, exhaustion and emotion mixing. You're really leaving soon, aren't you? Bob's eyes glimmered, steady yet sad. Soon, but not yet. There's still tonight. There's still this moment. And as long as we have it, we have everything. Sasha moved closer to him. Will we remember you? Bob smiled faintly. More than you know. Music fades. Memories fade. But the heart remembers. And that is where I will live. With you. With your father. With everyone who needed love more than they realized. He knelt beside Daniel's wheelchair one last time. Hold on to each other. That's the only gift that lasts longer than time itself. Love is eternal. Sasha held his hand tightly. I won't forget you. You never will, Bob whispered later that night. After leaving their apartment quietly, Bob returned to his own home. The silence there was heavier than ever. He sat in the dimly lit room, guitar beside him, the memory of Sasha and Daniel lingering in every shadow. He could feel the pain of his body more sharply than usual. But there was peace in his heart. He reflected on the concert, on the pause, on walking to a single crying fan and realizing the depth of human connection. The world saw a legend performing one last time, stopping to comfort a girl in tears. But the truth was far more profound. Bob Marley, facing his own mortality, had recognized life's fragility mirrored in that girl and her father. He had chosen to pause, to witness, to embrace humanity when the spotlight was on him. The following months were quieter. Bob continued to live each day with purpose, performing smaller shows, visiting family, and keeping close to the people who mattered. He knew the end was near, but he carried with him the memory of that night. The girl, the father, and the way music could heal even when words were not enough. When he finally passed, the world mourned. Fans around the globe remembered the songs, the performances, the spirit. But those who knew the story of the final show understood the depth of his humanity. They knew the night Bob Marley stopped for a crying girl was not merely a concert moment. It was the reflection of a man confronting mortality, recognizing love, and choosing to act with compassion despite the pain that weighed on him. Sasha and Daniel carried that night forever. They told the story not just of meeting a legend, but of a man who saw fear, love, and courage in the eyes of a young girl and her father and gave them the most precious gift, presence, years later. Sasha said in an interview, Bob didn't just stop the concert. He stopped time. He stopped the world for us. And in doing that, he reminded me what it means to truly live, truly love, and truly care before it's too late. Bob Marley changed the world with music. But on that night, he changed hearts, showing that even a single act of empathy could resonate further than any song, further than fame, further than life itself. Some legends are remembered for their music, some for their words. Few are remembered for stopping a world full of noise, just to comfort one crying heart, and that is the story of Bob Marley's final concert. The girl in tears and the truth that no one knew until it was revealed, that even legends are human, fragile and capable of seeing, feeling, and acting with love until their very last moment. Asterisk, please subscribe my channel.